play it all or nothing. Yeah, need it all in advance. The opposition know we're ready for it. Like a supper we eating, it won't be the last. Grind all the muscle, pull up. Poker right on the grass. We coming in, take over everything, run it up. Nothing holding me back. 3 in the wood, rushing. I don't like Dutch, don't even matter, you know I'm a face. And when I roll a paper, I like to go double. Run up a check, flip a W, make it an M. I need a couple.
Welcome to Takeover from the crib. And we have a special guest today, someone that I've had sports beef with since the 7th grade. He has a show called The Mixed Report. He also reports for Georgia State football and all athletics. My boy Koa Ben. Koa, say what's up to Takeover.
Yo, what's up, Takeover, guys? I just want to say, huge fan. Thank you, Cam, for letting me on. And I've heard all y'all takes. And we disagree and agree a lot. And I'm just glad to be on the show for once.
And how are you guys doing? Josh and DeAndre?
Oh, I'm doing very good. How about you, Josh? How are you doing?
Well, I got to watch my Hawks get beat by about 18 last night, so I'm not the greatest, but I still have the faith. So, all in all, a lot better than I've been most of the time.
Well, to introduce more pain, we're going to go ahead and start off with your boy Julio Jones. The Falcons have traded Julio Jones for, I believe, a second-round pick. I believe another pick was involved in that as well. But Julio is now a part of the Tennessee Titans. So it basks the question: should Tennessee be the favorite to beat or to be with Kansas City this season?
Okay, I'll get into this first. Personally, no, I don't think it's the Titans, and I'll say why. I just think when you look at their offseason, I peeped that they lost their 3 starting corners with Malcolm Butler, Desmond King, and Adoree Jackson, and they also lost Jonnu Smith, and I personally think they overpaid for Bud Dupree. So their offseason moves that they made, and they signed Janoris Jenkins to be their corner too. I don't know what they're doing. And plus their defensive line last year was very suspect. That's why they got rid of Jadeveon Clowney, and they cut Vic Beasley in the middle of the season. So bad, just so bad. And then I did like the draft pick they made with Caleb Farley, because I really, really did like Farley, but it's a high risk, high reward, and you don't really know how he's going to play because he's just very injury prone. And if you have Janoris Jenkins and Farley as your top 2 corners and Bud Dupree's your best pass rusher, I just don't really see how that's going to really work with the defense. The offense alone is going to be outstanding with A.J. Brown, who I personally think is a top 3 underrated receiver in the league. And you got, of course, that man Julio Jones. But the last thing, and more importantly with the Titans, I just think that they lost their offensive coordinator, and before Arthur Smith was there, Ryan Tannehill wasn't what he is now. And most definitely Derrick Henry. No slander. Like, Derrick Henry still to me is the best running back in the league, but he wasn't that best running back in the league before Arthur Smith got there. So I think the team to watch out for is the Browns. They got John Johnson. They signed Troy Hill. They signed Jadeveon to play next to Garrett. And Grant Delpit didn't even play last year, so now he's going to be on the field. And then I love what they did in the draft with Greg Newsome, JOK, and Schwartz off of Auburn. Like, they have the pieces. The only thing is going to be Odell. Every time Odell gets on the field, they seem like a different team offensively. It doesn't really seem like it's a very cohesive unit. And I think, of course, Baker is going to have to prove himself. But I think this is finally the year he could make some noise, because Baker, Nick Chubb, and Denzel Ward are playing for a new contract. So this is going to be the best version of all 3 of them. So I think the team to watch out for is the Browns, sadly not the Titans, even though I want Julio to win.
You made some very, very good points, especially about the offensive coordinator, because that was one of the reasons why I don't think that they will be in the conversation with the Kansas City Chiefs. Because when I think about the Kansas City Chiefs, I think Super Bowl, and I do not think that the Titans will be going to the Super Bowl. I mean, this was a dominant team in the regular season. I guess you could say they have a decent offensive line, and they tried to upgrade on defense through the draft. They were really lacking in that playmaking type of position besides Henry and A.J. Brown. And when you look at the playoff game against the Ravens, right, they were able to stop the run and they basically called their card. And they needed someone besides A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry, as we saw what happened there, to take over. And now you have two frontline number one receivers, a great running back. And this was an already physical team. So you have A.J. Brown, who's tough to tackle, and then you have Derrick Henry, who we saw just completely dismantle people. And then we have Julio Jones, who is physical as well. So I do think they're definitely going to be better than they were last year. But the fact that they lost their offensive coordinator, you're bringing in Julio Jones with the new offensive coordinator. And another thing that I picked up was their identity was mainly running the ball. So do we know are they going to adjust to throwing the ball more this season, just like that? And I don't think that's going to happen. And like you said, Koa, you talked about their defense. I don't think their defense is good enough, in my opinion, to go to the Super Bowl. And like I said, when I think about the Kansas City Chiefs, that's what I think. So that's why I don't think they will be going. I don't think that they are going to be competing against the Kansas City Chiefs.
I guess I'll take it. So there are a few things I want to say. First of all, Cam, what do you always say about football? What's your catchphrase on how to win a championship?
Nowadays, man, offense wins chips.
Right? Offense wins championships. So then why is the Tennessee Titans, why are they not the favorites now? Why are we suddenly saying, oh, but they don't have a good defense, they're not going to make it? Who cares? It hasn't mattered for the Chiefs for the last 2 years. They had an underrated defense, but they never had a good defense. And they still were in the playoffs and the Super Bowl back-to-back years. You're talking about a team in Tennessee that has a top 10 rated quarterback in Ryan Tannehill, who I get your point, Koa, on he wasn't good before, but he was also playing for Adam Gase most of those years. And we just saw what Adam Gase did over in New York. So how about we don't draw the conclusions on Tannehill until he, plays for somebody that's actually a competent head coach that's not named Arthur Smith. They have an absolute beast of a running back, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is a man amongst boys, and it's hard to look like that in the NFL, and yet he put up 2,000 yards last year. Does he have a big workload? Absolutely. But if there's anybody built to handle the ball a bunch of times, it's somebody that's like, 6'3", 240? I think he can handle it. And then the Tennessee Titans have two top 10 wide receivers on their team, which is true of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think it's the only other team that I would argue potentially has that, depending on your feelings on Chris Godwin. They have A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. And Julio Jones has had struggles staying healthy. That is true. But I think now having another guy similar to him in A.J. Brown who can handle tougher assignments, because I love Calvin Ridley, but Calvin Ridley's always been a bit more of a shiftier route runner, sort of break you down with the footwork. Julio's always been, he can break you down with the footwork, or he can just, use all 6'3" of them to go over people. So now Julio doesn't have to be the only physical specimen on the team. They did lose Jonnu Smith, but they do still have Anthony Ferguson, who is slowly emerging as a quality pass-catching tight end. They've got a good offensive line, and the defense sucks, absolutely. But in today's NFL, who cares? They'll give up 31 and score 42. This is what Tennessee's going to do. I would say they're right up there with the favorites in the AFC, right there with Buffalo right now, I would argue.
Well, let me go ahead and put some perspective for you guys. Julio Jones and A.J. Brown together are the most physical tandem of receivers I think I've ever seen be put on the field together. Look at what A.J. Brown did last year, 70 receptions, 11 touchdowns. He can ball out. Derrick Henry, I think he's a top 3 running back. When he gets going downhill, he's basically impossible to stop. And now that you have an outside threat of Brown and Julio, you can't bring that safety down and play one high. Now you have to play 2 high. You have to play at least a cover 2, because if you have Julio one-on-one, we see what he does. He's going to torch that corner every single time. And then you look at what Ryan Tannehill can do. He can throw the ball down the field. I think unlike quarterbacks in Atlanta that we just have praise for, and Ryan Tannehill can throw the ball accurately down the field. So Julio and A.J. Brown will get deep ball chances. And you look at Julio, 30% of his catches last season were above 20 yards. So I feel like that's got to be a part of Julio's game. And Ryan Tannehill last season, he had 33 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions, and averaged 12.1 air yards per attempt. So he can get the ball down the field. But the real reason these guys aren't favorites, Josh, although I praise offense, is because We don't know how long Julio's going to be on the field. The best ability is availability, and Julio hasn't been that available the past 2 seasons. I mean, he's had foot injuries. I've seen him play some possessions, then he's out the other possessions. How consistent is Julio going to be? Now he's playing outside now, not in a dome, and I think in a conference that is way rougher than kind of the NFC standpoint. How long is Julio gonna be stable there? So, and look at we did last season. He only scored 3 touchdowns. So I don't know. Their defense is suspect. They're 28th in pass defense, and they were last in able to stop people on third down. I know that I've praised offense, but if you have no defense, you don't have a chance. You gotta play a little defense. You even look at Seattle; they had a great offense, but they had no defense, and so they ended up struggling. But the real team to watch out for, and the person I'm not gonna agree with Koa, it's the Cleveland Browns. You look at what Cleveland does. Baker Mayfield has the it factor. I don't think it's gonna take 6 games for him to get ready this time. I feel like he's gonna come out the gate firing this time, and I think Cleveland is the most physical football team playing in the NFL right now. You look at what they did down the stretch. Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb back to back, they were wearing down teams. And you look at Baker, and you look at Jarvis Landry, and you look at Odell. He has the weapons on the outside. He can make the plays. And on the defensive side, they're just as good. You got Myles Garrett. You got Denzel Ward. Those guys are going to be able to play come playoff time. I think we saw it in spurts last season. They should have beat the Chiefs. I don't know how they let Henny beat them. But, I mean, I feel like this is going to be a team that we really should watch out for. I believe the Browns are going to be the team in the AFC Championship, not the Tennessee Titans.
I would just like to point out that Julio only played 7 games last year, so saying he only had 3 touchdowns is a bit disrespectful because he was hurt with a hamstring. And then on top of that, you talking about Baker Mayfield has the it factor. Cam, you sound like Skip Bayless on this show. Come on, man. You're better than this.
I mean, you saw what he did versus Lamar Jackson that Monday night game. He has shown flashes that he can be the guy. It's not just me. He's shown flashes.
Only thing I'll warn y'all on is the last time we hyped up the Browns as a future Super Bowl contender, they went 6-10, and the entire franchise was looking like it was about to collapse. It is a different time, and Cleveland's going to be very good. I believe that. But I'm just saying you can't praise offense and then not praise offense when they have an offense. You seem a little hypocritical here, Cam. Just saying. But anyway,
well, to be fair, I was just gonna make a comment about what you said about who cares per se about defense. We saw what happened in the Super Bowl. That's all that I have to say. So,
I mean, it was a ravaged offensive line that was starting a bunch of backups, but I mean, it's all good.
My last thing, since you did throw that last shot, Ryan Tannehill ain't Patrick Mahomes. And as far as unguardable, Tyreek Hill is the most unguardable receiver in the league right now.
Sure.
So that's all I have to say about offense right now. And while the Kansas City Chiefs can win strictly off offense.
Okay. We're going to move on to our second topic, which is going to be NBA related. Ladies and gentlemen, we're down to 8 teams in the NBA playoffs, 4 out west, 4 out east. We're seeing what's going on out east, but we want to focus on what's going on out west because that's the one that looks like it's a little bit more interesting. We've had some people steal some games. Who's y'all's favorite to come out the West?
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and say right now, I'm going with the Clippers. Even after last night, I am fully confident that the Clippers will be able to beat the Utah Jazz and come out the West. Because look, Josh, I know your face. I'm still not a believer in Utah. They're gonna have to show me. They're gonna have to show Kawhi Leonard. Because look, in these playoffs, if it's one thing I have learned, it's about star power. And it's not the best team almost usually doesn't win. Like the best assembled roster sometimes doesn't win. It's about the 2 stars on the other team or the 2 stars on a certain team that win. You look at the finals last year, Miami had a better roster than the Lakers. They had more shooters. They were deeper, I would even say. But you know what? It came to LeBron James and AD and how their star power took over the game, and it felt like the Miami Heat were outmatched. Jokic just won the MVP. But as far as best players in the West, I'm taking Kawhi any day of the week, especially if it comes down to a Game 7 situation. Look at what he did last series. Kawhi, when the Clippers won in the fourth quarter in the last series, shot 100% from the field. And Clippers wins, he didn't miss. at all. So I'm taking that, and I'm taking this Clippers team who shot a historic rate from the three-point line this season. As a team, they shot 41% from the three-point line. They can play defense. They got multiple defenders. And I know the whole playoff P thing, but Paul George in game 3 and I think in game 4 showed that he can play. I don't know what happened last night, because last night he was looking like playoff P again. But I'm gonna go on speculation. I don't think Paul George is gonna be bad forever. And I believe that the Clippers, because of the star power and because of Kawhi Leonard, will be able to come out the West.
First, I want to give a quick shout out to that man Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks, because they've been killing it, and Trae Young gets a lot of hate. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But sadly, even though I was laughing at Josh's face, I'm gonna have to agree with Kim here. I think people really forget that like 2-3 years ago, this man Kawhi Leonard was talked as the best NBA player in the world. And it's just hard for me to not picture him. If he can't even make a Western Conference Finals, I don't want to, like, Kawhi is not going to be a top 5 player to me. I'm sorry. So I like the Jazz as a team more, but then again, we see this every year with a team that plays really, really, really good as like a unit and with the great team chemistry and shooting. But then again, if you just have that one player that you can't get past, it really doesn't matter. And I really even think, not really the Jazz, but I think the Suns are more of a threat than the Jazz, me personally. That's just me personally. But I'm going to still take the Clippers because I still believe that Kawhi Leonard is that guy. When it comes down to late game stretches, he can show up. Like he's shown in this series, even though it really should have taken 7 games when you have that Clippers team to play Luka in that Mavs team. It really should have taken 7 games. And has Kawhi Leonard been kind of slacking on the Clippers? Yes, he has. But and I'm not even confident in me making this take, but I'm just saying this as a guy who realized how much hype was around Kawhi Leonard. He should be the prohibitive favorite to come out of the West. No LeBron James. You're the so-called new king of LA. You have to capitalize. And if you don't, I don't want to ever hear you in the top 5 discussion ever again, because if he can't make a Western Conference Finals and he loses to Jokic and loses to Donovan Mitchell, I don't want to hear any more debates with Kawhi Leonard versus KD, Kawhi Leonard versus Giannis, Kawhi Leonard versus LeBron. I don't want to hear any more of those discussions, period, end of discussion. I'm sorry, but that's all I got to say.
All right, so at first, I agree with you guys, and I wanted to pick the Clippers. By the way, before I go into depth on my take, I just want to say that I believe this is completely wide open. I believe that anybody could grab it at this point in time. But anyway, the reason why I am not picking the Clippers is because I have trust issues. As simple as that. I have trust issues with them. I am not sure. I'm giving them. I think a lot of people were too hard on them for game 1 because, you know, after a game 7, you're really emotionally spent and you're probably fatigued as well. So I think they just lost this game 1. I think they're going to be able to win this series as well. But a team that I think is very slept on that you mentioned, Koa, would be the Phoenix Suns. I believe that they have a chance to come out and take the West as well, because when you look at the series with Denver, yes, Nikola Jokic is the MVP, and his playmaking ability alone is just amazing and can carry a team. However, as we saw in the series against Portland, will Monte Morris, Michael Porter Jr., and Austin Rivers, will they be consistent enough to beat the Suns, who are better defensively than the Blazers? And the key to the Suns beating Denver, in my opinion, is going to be DeAndre Ayton. Will he give Jokic trouble? And he did so in game 1, and he was able to do it without getting into foul trouble. And one thing that I like about the Phoenix Suns, they're balanced offensively and on the defensive side of the ball. They're very versatile. They can score outside, on the inside, and they have a really good mid-range game. I believe that they're the top in the league at their mid-range game as well. They have options outside of Chris Paul and Devin Booker. They have people outside of them, like you have Cameron Payne, Johnson, Crowder, and Bridges. They have constant ball movement. Not only is it constant, it's very effective as well with the floor general, with CP3, with his passing and his playmaking ability. His leadership is very crucial to this team. And Chris Paul really gives you anything that you would want in a point guard. And obviously you have Devin Booker. I don't know about you guys. When I saw him drop 40 points in a must win game, that really, I mean, we've been known that he was a great player, but that alone let me know that he was ready for the playoffs. And many people question whether he will be ready for the playoffs or not. But that alone let me know that he's not going to let the bright light scare him. So I believe that the Phoenix Suns have a chance to make it out the West for sure.
Why do I always end up by myself on these hills ready to die? Why is this become my role on this show? Listen, I think D's take on the Suns is great. Phoenix is looking awesome this entire playoffs. And I think that it's between them and one other team. And I think both of y'all, Koa and Cam, got it wrong. Cam, you say that it's all about star power. The Clippers only have one star. Paul George is fast becoming a regular season star. Paul George in the playoffs, ever since he dubbed himself playoff P in OKC, when have we ever seen him truly show up consistently for multiple games or even a whole series as the number one guy? He saw 4 for 17. What's up, Kim? I see you raising your hand. What's up?
Can I respond to that real quick?
Go ahead.
Kawhi Leonard is so good, Paul George only has to respond for 2 of these games. I just think just two. Kawhi is that good. He is that efficient. And honestly, I feel like they lost last night because Luke Kennard was in the game. They kept putting him in pick and roll situations. But look, you look at 7 of 9. Look. He was good on offense, but when it came to him playing defense, they kept putting him in pick and roll situations. He can't guard Donovan Mitchell. But I don't think Paul George has to be consistently good for all 7 games or how many games this goes. He has to just show up some games. Kawhi is that good. That's all I'm saying.
So now your second max contract player only has to show up some games. That's a terrible situation. What's up, Deandra? You're muted.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say that you said that only one of those players is good, and that's Kawhi Leonard. Typically, we could kind of say that for the Utah Jazz with Donovan Mitchell. We see what it's like when he's gone. We saw game 1 against the Memphis Grizzlies, and obviously we saw the first half against the Clippers. They looked terrible, and then Donovan Mitchell had to come and save them. And like I'm saying, when they're a 3-point shooting team, so when the 3-point shooting is off, it's just they anyone can win at any point in time. But you can slick say the same thing for Utah. That's all I wanted to say.
All right, well, let me make my case for why Utah is my favorite to come out the West. First of all, I would just like to point out, if you go back and watch a video from like a ton of months ago, I done predicted this back in the day. So if this comes true, y'all can never talk anything about me ever again. First of all, give me Utah, all right, for the simple fact of Donovan Mitchell's a superstar. We've seen that for the last couple playoffs. And Rudy Gobert is the single most impactful defender in the playoffs right now. Rudy Gobert can go against anybody when they drive the paint. He shuts down a team's ability to drive the paint. Does he kind of get lost on switches? Sure. But luckily, Utah does have people on the perimeter that they can use to defend. Royce O'Neal is a dog out there. He's a little undersized, but he competes. Donovan Mitchell competes. He's not great, but he competes. And the same thing with Mike Conley. Mike Conley's been a good defensive point guard in this league for a little bit longer than a half decade. So, and I know y'all are talking about with, they had to come save him. Their players were off. The role players were off. But Mike Conley has been a great shooter this whole year, and I highly doubt that's going to continue, him missing. Bojan Bogdanovic is still working his way back from an injury, and he's still working his way back into a rhythm, and it's hard to when a bunch of other people have shots. Jordan Clarkson is historically hit or miss, but we've seen him hit plenty in the playoffs, and I think he's going to start warming up. And Joe Ingles, arguably, in my humble opinion, had a better argument for Sixth Man of the Year than Jordan Clarkson, because Jordan Clarkson had the numbers, but Ingles had the impact. So give me them for the simple fact of I don't trust the Clippers, because we've seen the Clippers go to 7 games with a team that they should have destroyed. You should destroy the Mavs when Kristaps Porzingis is averaging like 12 points on almost no shots. KP was I think Cam said he was a lamp out there, or somebody said he looked like a lamp. So I think they should have destroyed the Mavs. And we saw them last year. They blew a 3-1 lead. I don't have trust with this team until they prove me wrong. I don't trust the Nuggets simply because they only have one star right now. And I don't necessarily, Michael Porter Jr. I don't think he's there just yet. And they don't have that other dynamic scoring option. And then as for why I take Utah over the Suns, I call it a gut feeling, man. Call it I believe in the whole. The whole is better than the sum of its parts, or whatever. I believe in the team. I believe that this Utah team is deep enough and well coached enough and is enough of a well-oiled machine that they can get by the arguably superior talent of the Suns to where they would be able to get all the way to the finals, simply because I believe everybody is bought into this system. I believe they go deeper than almost any team, and I just have a lot of faith in Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert.
I don't know if you're like a prisoner of the moment or anything, but you realize Utah blew a 3-1 lead last year, right, against the Nuggets. Like, that happened. So as far as 3-1 leads, they're capable of blowing it too because they did it last year.
That was last year. That was last year when they had fractures in the relationships between specifically Mitchell and Gobert because of what happened with the COVID stuff. And they weren't this deep because were they? I don't know. And then the Clippers were supposed to win. The Clippers were definitely supposed to win.
Sure.
And they also lost 3-1 because Jamal Murray went absolutely nuclear.
For sure. And as far as others, I feel like the Clippers others match just as well. You look at what Reggie Jackson is doing from the three-point line. He's been balling out. Luke Kennard, like, he's found his stroke back. And especially the play of Zubac, who I feel like is going really under the radar. He's been able to deflect shots. He's shown a presence on offense. I feel like the Clippers others are going to be able to play as well. I feel like they're evenly matched. But I'm gonna lean towards Kawhi. That's who I trust. That's who I've seen do it. I haven't seen Donovan Mitchell do it, and I can't call him a superstar yet because he's only done this for one season, and I don't know if we can deem that superstar worthy. I've seen Kawhi go through playoff series where he shot 60% from the field, just straight 60%. I've seen him go fourth quarters without missing. So I'm gonna lean towards Kawhi, and I'm gonna lean towards those Clippers in this debate right here.
Yeah, back to what Kim was saying. I'm a big Donovan Mitchell fan. What he did his rookie season, I feel like he should have won Rookie of the Year. But superstar, like, come on. Like, is he even a top 15 player? Like, come on, Josh. He's not a superstar.
He averaged 36 in the playoffs last year. In that series, he averaged 36.
So that makes you a super – okay.
He did in the playoffs.
What's your definition of a superstar? Like, who do you put on the level of superstar, Josh?
I don't know. We're not going to get into that whole conversation because that's going to take up another 10 minutes, and we've already gone for about 30. But the point I'm trying to make is I just think Donovan Mitchell has that alpha gene. If we want to talk about what he has the it factor. I don't want to sound like Skip Bayless because I hate doing that.
Okay.
But I've seen him do this. He's been the number one option in the playoffs for multiple years. He's put up crazy numbers, and I think now he's finally got the surrounding talent and the system, and everybody has finally bought in, and everybody's kind of figured out their role. I think it's just their year.
Well, that is going to end our episode for the day. Do you guys have anything to say before we go ahead and close out for the day?
Thank you guys for letting me on. I'll be sure to watch this in all your videos, and make sure y'all like, share, comment, and do all that good stuff.
Exactly what he said. And I would just like to make a small prediction. I would just like to say that Hawks in 6.
Atlanta fans, don't let them build you up to tear you down. They keep doing this. Y'all are just going to be sad at the end of the day when Joel Embiid is that guy. But I want to say thanks for Cole for joining on. Make sure you guys also go to his channel and go support the Mixed Report too, because they have some good stuff over there as well. That's going to close our episode for the day. Takeover out.
Yeah, we play it all in night. Yeah, need it all in advance. The opposition know we're ready for it. Like a supper we eating, it won't be the last. Grind all the muscle, pull up. Parker right on the grass, we coming in, take over everything, run it up, nothing holding me back. 3 in the wood, rushing. I don't like Dutch, don't even matter, you know I'm a face. And when I roll a paper, I like to go double. Run up a check, flip a W, make it an M. I need